Okay, lep pozdrav še enkrat z najne strani. I'm gonna switch to English now for this conversation for obvious reasons. One of them is I don't speak French and Deborah doesn't speak Slovenian, so we're gonna try our best. Maybe just a few questions, but the idea is, of course, that you get a chance to also speak and ask questions or, comment on the film. So maybe if someone feels inspired right now after the film, if you already have some questions or comments, you are very welcome to ask them now. That's very Slovenian, so maybe we need some time to warm up. So maybe, I know obviously all of us in this room now have seen the film, but we still might not all have the same knowledge or understanding of what being intersex means. So maybe before we start talking about it and about the film and your experiences, if you could just try to kind of explain it to everyone.
Okay, thank you. So if I have to give a definition of intersex, intersex is a person whose biological characteristics, sex characteristics, doesn't fit the typical definition of male and female as the medical institution understands it. And it could be linked to your chromosome, to your genes, to your hormonal system, to how your body reacts at puberty, if puberty the body has. It can also be linked to the genitalia or internal or external genital organs. So, and you can have, you have a lot of intersex variations. You don't, for example, in the film you have 3 people with XY chromosomes, but there is a lot more intersex variations. Not all are about the chromosomes. Sometimes just hormonal. Sometimes it's about puberty, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I think also in Slovenia it's quite a new topic, like LGBT topics have been around now for a few decades, and now trans more and more, whereas with, and so many people don't really know much about it, but intersex is a very, very much a new topic, also because in Slovenia right now, as I've told you, there isn't an out intersex person that would be an activist. So it's really hard to. We always get this question: what is it like in Slovenia? How many people are there? And it's really hard because we don't have that data. First, you always have to, have people and do some research, and it's, as you know, one of the biggest problems is secrecy and hiding also the medical files and so on. So it's really hard, but with basically other LGBT organizations, all of them kind of, we have formed a coalition now this year, and we've had a few events and also guests from abroad, from OII Europe, which is the umbrella European organization. They're great. They do a lot of resources and support other organizations throughout Europe. So I just wanted to throw that in to know that if anyone has any questions, you can either write to Transakcja or any other organization, or talk to Deborah after after this. And yeah, so maybe now about the film. How did you, not just how did you decide? Because from what I understand, by talking to you, you weren't really out or an activist before the film.
Not at all.
It's a very interesting way to come out and to get into that, like.
Because we're really, really scary.
Yeah. So do you want to say more about the process and like what it meant to you, the film?
Pleasure. So when Florian, the film director, contacted, in the beginning, Florian was mandated to do a film on intersex topic, and she really wanted to make a film different from the film already existing on the topics, who were like half medical, half testimony film with a lot of shame and pathologizing words in them, and she decided to don't make a film like this, and so she asked, she educated herself, she asked a lot of questions to intersex communities in France on how would be a good film on intersex topic for you, and that's how she first had the contact with Mathilde M in the film. Now she's out, and they start to discuss by mail because M didn't want to meet her in person because we all three were like closeted in some way. We're out to our friends, but not public like now. So yeah, and they start to discuss on what is the situation in France and what it could be a good film, talking about, as Mathilde say, it's a film that picture the people that are not like super activists, but are living the fact that they're intersex privately and how they manage to live with the fact they're intersex. And then it's better when and then she wanted to have someone in front of the camera because M didn't want at the beginning to be on the screen. And so she continued to search people who were at least okay to be in a film, and she contacted the doctor you see in the film, with a urologist, pediatrician urologist, who has changed his medical practice in the last 2 decades, and she contacted him, who was doing a little bit of halal work, and asked him if he knew some intersex people who could be interested to join the film. And then the doctor asked to Audrey and me if we were okay to join the film. Then we contacted Florian, we drank a beer together, she talked a lot on what she wanted to do, and I think I decided to be part of her film because she explained her vision with a lot of how to say it. She was really accurate, and I instantly feel she was an ally in the way she tried to be questioning and not like, it should be like this, and I see this, and I want that. So for us, it was really cool to be in this relation with the filmmaker, where we could basically everything you've seen in the film is how things happen like naturally. There is no like guidance like, oh, now you can do this like this, except the scene in the Louvre, in the museum, when Mathilde and I say, Deborah, and I run, is the only scene that is like film like this on purpose, because we need to show how you meet, but we already met like the day before and talked like quite all night long. But it was really interesting and empowering to be part of the film. And the only moment where I was really scary for me, it was quite at the end of the film, when we all knew that it will be like published on the TV national channel in France and in Switzerland, the main national TV channel. And yeah, I was really afraid that, for example, my life will be challenged by the fact that I will be out with the film, and for example, for jobs or in the streets. And I was a little bit like, it was the contrast between I live all my life being intersex openly in private, but not publicly, and now everyone in the streets can see the film and know that I'm intersex. It was really scary this time. But after the film, when we first screened it, I had no negative reaction from people, even on internet, where everyone here knows that on internet the biggest asshole comments with hate, and we didn't have such things about the film. Some people come and say, well, blah blah blah, there is XX and XY and it's nature, but that it's so uninformed, and so it's not, you don't care. But in the streets, even people come to me and stop me and say, hey, you're so brave, thank you for this film, I learned a lot of things. So in the weeks that followed the public, the passage of the film on the TV. So it was a journey.
And then afterwards, after the film, you just decided to found an organization?
Yes.
How was that?
Audrey and me were thinking about founding an association for a little time. And because in Switzerland we have an intersex association, but they were really activist on one particular objective, that is to ban intersex mutilation. And it's really activist, it's really radical and punchy, and if you're not out, it can be scary to join such an organization. And also this organization wasn't meant to build a community, and for us the more important was to have a community in Switzerland, to have safe spaces to meet other intersex people, to exchange and to fight for our basic fundamental human rights. But it was also to have a community in Switzerland. So we wanted to create it, and after the film, with the impulse of all the empowerments we live with, meeting other intersex people, speaking a lot, going outside of the isolation and shame and secrecy. It was really the game changing for us, and it was like the natural next step of the film.
And how would you say the things have changed, if you feel like they have, from, let's say, I don't know, 3 years ago and now?
First, there is a more media exposure of the topic. So we have a lot of media who are interested in testimony portraits of Audrey or me, and it gives us the opportunity to speak for ourselves, and give every public the representation we want for intersex topic. because before it was just like the representation around like genital mutilation and doctors and the fight between intersex activists and the doctors, and it wasn't really human people behind the stories of intersex people. So I think it brings something new in the public debate on this topic. And also to have a young association with young people help also like politicians or journalists or universities to understand that things still aren't perfect or okay, and there is still work to do, and that if we have to like be activists at our age, it means something on what is going on in society and what are the needs of intersex people. So I think that was also important.
I personally think it's incredible what came out of this film, but obviously not just the film, but you know, your decisions as well. So it's very impressive, and yeah, I mean, we can only wish that this would happen in Slovenia sometimes as well.
Yes, and you don't have to be out, for example, I think, to have an association, an intersex association, because a lot of things can be done online. You can have like secret talking groups. There is way to keep like save your intimacy, or if you're not out, for example.
Yeah, maybe at this point I would like to try again. If anyone has any questions, we have a mic that can travel all the way up. Okay.
Yay!
Hello, thank you for the film. I really enjoyed it. I have many questions. But let's start. There was a line at the beginning of the film, and I don't know who said it, like, was it you or maybe it was this other person saying something like that, I'm still fighting with feelings of shame after the activism. Do you remember? I mean, like something like, I don't know, was this M person, so the person that is not out at the beginning of the film, or was it one of you who actually is already out during the film?
I think it was M, but I'm not sure, saying that she was fighting against a feeling of being ashamed. And is it?
Because she talks about activism and shame in the same sentence.
Ah, yeah, okay, this phrase, yes. Okay, what she meant, it was to say that she was part of the people who didn't manage to transcend the shame, secrecy and taboo on intersex topic to be an activist.
Okay.
So it was before we created the association, before all of the, yeah.
Okay.
Because it was in one of our first letters we exchanged.
Yes, I really like the dramaturgy of the film when you have the doctor at the beginning, but then he disappears and it's all about the feelings of coming out and the disclosure and all that shame. So I enjoyed it. Could you maybe tell more about? You said that there are many variations of intersex, but is it always or not always, or in the majority of cases, then connected to some kind of hormonal therapy?
Usually, for a lot of intersex variation, there is hormonal therapy, because doctors want to have hormonal levels that are average. And so you have hormonal therapy for like a lot of people assigned female at birth, You have, for example, even if you have XY chromosomes, and you can have hormonal therapy to like align the value of your hormonal levels. And so, yeah.
And also, if I'm sorry to
Yeah,
jump
also
in, like
if
also
you're
if you
not-
have like surgeries,
Yeah.
you know, as an infant, and then like
Yeah,
then
it's clear.
if you take something that produces
Yeah.
hormones out of
As soon as you don't have gonads anymore, you
Yeah.
have to be on hormone replacement therapy. Because it's like ovaries, ovotestes, and testicle that produce these hormones. And you need them for like, yeah, for the temperature regulation of the body, for the bones, for a lot of other things than just, yeah.
So how is this in Slovenia? Okay, another question for you, obviously, but still, because okay, so there's a secrecy, but do we know anything about the operations?
In Europe, we can say that in Europe there is only there is mainly this approach of intersex that you need to change the people to make them conform the norms. So yeah, it's still like we described in the film, and not how the doctor described it. Yeah. Because the doctors like said, yeah, it's nothing urgent. We can wait for the people to express themselves, and yeah, and it's not the case in a lot of places in Europe, even in Switzerland, and the principal approach is still a lot interventionist and precoce. Like you have a lot of surgeries and hormonal treatments in the early childhood and in the childhood, when they can be in the like teenage or even in adulthood. So
yeah, maybe I can try to answer about the Slovenian situation, and if someone wants to add something, Lynn, I'm looking at you as well, because we've been like more trying to work more in this coalition, and yeah, it's obviously I'm not talking from my own experience, but from what we know is that we know very little, because it's all very hidden, and
yeah, but it's the same.
the doctors,
everywhere in Europe.
even if there are some people who try to access their medical files and histories, most of the time they can't, they get lost, or so it's really hard. There is no one is basically keeping like track or log of these, and even like when we talk to, because now we've been trying to be more like strategic and work systematically, and we've also spoken to students at the Faculty of Law, students like of medicine, and even in the curriculum, it's like from what we learned is that they don't teach them about intersex. It's not like something that they would use. It's very much spread out throughout the curriculum under very specific fields and names and syndromes and so on. So and obviously also we have asked, with the help of the Zagovornik načela enakosti, as this coalition, we have asked relevant medical institutions and ethical commission, and so different ones from like pediatrics and others, and so we've addressed a few questions about like what happens to intersex babies, and if there's a protocol, and so just a few main questions, and I have to say that the answers were very disappointing. Also, each of them use different terminology for intersex, and there is no protocol, obviously. There is like how so it's not like regulated, and there isn't a clear protocol, but they kind of know how the process usually goes. So eventually they send, if there's like a child like that, they send them to, from what I understood, to Ljubljana, to, and it's one person, one doctor who has kind of a monopoly on this, because he is seen as the expert, and he is convinced that he is helping, as they usually are, a lot of them. I mean, I don't know what he believes, but this is how it goes. So yeah, and the story is that it, as is usually is with intersex babies and children, that they're trying to help them to normalize them so that they can have a normal life, which means obviously straight and yeah, obviously. So yeah, so this is the main problem that we're also trying to work on in Slovenia, because I think all of us agree that, you know, having like surgeries on babies without any consent, without parents really being informed, because
without health necessity.
Yeah, exactly. So there's one thing is if, you know, yeah, if there is obviously a medical reason, you know, to help the child, but that is very rarely the case.
Because if you, the case where you need the parental authority to give consent is only the cases where the practices can be delayed, and they are urgent and life-threatening, and none of these conditions are full by intersex variation, except one intersex variation, which implies a loss of salt, but you can block the salt loss without like giving surgeries, and so yeah.
So yeah, we've also, like in Slovenia, we've also been reaching out and being in touch with an intersex activist from Zagreb. You know, because Zagreb is, for example, very close on Switzerland, and Serbia, because yeah, regional context is also important. So yeah, but we're still very much in the beginning, maybe.
And if
Thank you for all the information. I'll just give mic if somebody else also has a question.
If there's maybe like a final question, because I think we probably have to soon-ish wrap up.
Yeah.
Or a comment, or if you wanted to.
Yeah, intersex communities tends to organize themselves first internationally, then by region, for example, Europe, and and then locally. So if people here want to start an intersex association, it could be cool to first like come to a OII meeting and like join the intersex community in Europe, meet people, see how fun it is, and have links, and also it's important to have like other supportive people because being an activist can be it needs a lot of energy, and you need support and a community behind you to support you. So yeah, you don't start isolated if you
so maybe at this point, just if anyone wants to talk to Deborah afterwards, or even like to me, we can give you also like email contact from Erin from Zagreb, who does counseling for intersex people, and their relatives. So there are options and there is support available. And yeah, at this point maybe I'll just thank you, Deborah, once again for being here with us, for taking the time and for doing all of this work.
Thank you to you and to the Queer Film Festival.
Yeah. So yeah, thanks everyone for coming and for staying for this discussion. And yeah, hope you enjoyed, I guess, despite it.